This is a Geek Leader. Hey guys, welcome to episode 165 of the Geek Leader Podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda, and special thanks to Private Internet Access. I've been a customer of Private Internet Access for 3 years now, and I love this service. I was at a security conference a few years back, and I connected to the hotel Wi-Fi, and immediately my endpoint protection software started alerting me that I was being attempted to be hacked, and I guess you could expect that from a security conference. But anyway, I launched my VPN from Private Internet Access, and all the attempts just stopped. My data and the internet connection is now secure with Private Internet Access, and I've been using their service again for 3 years, and I love it. I love the fact that you can choose different geographical locations, so you can test things like how your DNS is resolving and use it for many different reasons. But that's one definite use case for the different geolocations that you can choose with Private Internet Access. And you can get your VPN starting at $3.33 per month. Yes, that's right, $3.33 per month by going to geekleader.com/VPN. All right, Geek Leaders. Today on the show, I've got Ravs Kaur. She's the technology officer responsible for product and engineering at Uplevel. And before that, she spent a decade at Microsoft and was leading some other teams. But what we really want to talk about today is kind of her journey through technology into the leadership position that she's at today. What life's been like at a startup going through COVID-19 and things that we're going through right now, and some of the things that Uplevel offers when it comes to engagement for engineering teams. So with all that being said, Ravs, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for having me.
So if you don't mind telling the audience just a little bit about kind of what your career journey's been like and how things have kind of led you from one place to another all throughout your career to kind of lay some context for our conversation.
Yeah, sure. So I started my career in Microsoft in the C++ compiler. So, as geeky as it gets, was roaming the halls around with people who wrote the books on the language. So a very humbling experience surrounded by what I would consider super technical, super smart people. Also started in the test discipline. So I was a software engineer in test. Figured I like to build things and break things, and that seemed like, a good mix of both. So that's what I experimented with. And through I tried on some just hardcore developer roles, and I got sort of thrust into management, not unlike a lot of other people you hear, which was like, it started off with a conversation. At some point, I would like to try this. Before you know it, I had a report and I was managing a person. And really it came across as like, I was good at my sort of development job, and I got this management opportunity. And I realized that it actually gave me a great sense of gratification to watch people grow. And it occurred to me that that was actually a path I wanted to take. So, my teams got bigger. I started managing, big teams, small teams at Microsoft, and then moved to Tableau, where I spent 6 years just helping people see and understand data, was part of the visual analytics group. Storytelling with data was a big passion of mine, and just led some big teams over there of developers, testers, program managers, all trying to build a product to help delight customers. And that kind of got to where I am today, like this combination of management and, data and leading engineering teams sort of made Uplevel a perfect spot for me, because we were trying to build a product for, something I would use, something my teams would use, and it just excited me. And so I took the plunge into the startup world.
So tell me a little bit about kind of the product that you guys have been working on.
So what we are working on is, it's essentially like, a platform for engineering effectiveness. Like a lot of times people think about engineering effectiveness as, lines of code or, ways like machine-like metrics. And Uplevel takes sort of a different philosophy to it. Effectiveness is not about churning out more lines of code. Anyone in engineering would, tell you that. So what we're really looking for is, do people and engineers have the environment where they can do their best work, right? A lot of times in today's day and age, right, you'll see there's so many distractions, like you're dealing with customer fire drills, you're dealing with, a really rapid iteration development cycle. There's so much context switching going on. Developers are sucked into meetings all day. And really, if you come to think about it, do they have the time to be builders and have the time to be creators to churn out those innovations? And many times you realize, it's not there. So Uplevel is really trying to take that angle and trying to give teams a sense of what are the things they're battling with and where they can sort of make improvements to make developers' lives better.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about that, I thought back to probably 10 years ago when I was managing a web and mobile development team, and we were trying to improve our effectiveness, as you will. And, where we did, a time study. So I had everybody log like every 15-minute segments of their day for like 2 weeks just to figure out where our time is actually going. And we didn't realize it, but, something like 40% of our time was going to support. And at the time we had no idea. And if you would have asked someone, where's your time going? Very few people would have actually said support, but that's where it was all going.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this is a tool that might help us figure some of that stuff out and be able to tune the environment a little bit better so that you can be a better leader and a better manager for that team.
You're absolutely right. Like, a lot of this happens today based on gut, right? Like you might ask the engineers and even they underestimate the time, they spend on just interruptions. Think about this. You might have 2 hours planned in your day and you want to get some work done, but before you know it, you've got some Slack interruptions, you've helped, a couple of people, and you're taken out of your zone, right? And you really haven't done the things that you had planned to do. Mm-hmm. And we often underestimate that. And it's a lot of gut. Like you'll hear things like, I don't have time in the day, and so what we're trying to do is like put data behind those conversations and really give you a sense of where your time's going, and what would you, need to do to sort of bring that back in a little bit under your control.
Yeah, I found, just that little exercise of having my team do that, several years ago, I found that so valuable that I teach part-time at Winthrop University, and during my information design class, it's like a junior, senior level class in the information technology design. Let's see, what's the name of that major? Digital information design. So it's in that major. It's one of the senior courses. And I found it so valuable that I actually have the students do that for a 2-week period as part of their grade, just to show them where their time's going. And it's shocking how many students spend, more than 20 hours a week playing video games. It's just like mind blowing.
Yeah, you remind me of those reality check digital well-being things on your phone apps. Like, oh my gosh, I actually spent 4 hours on my phone today.
Yeah, I have to say during this the quarantine time right now, my screen time on iPhone has been telling me I've been spending way too much time on the phone.
Yeah, I stopped looking. Yeah, but we did something similar at Tableau, like with my team. There was just a ton of time going into support. And what we didn't realize was, like, we actually went and, painfully tagged each work item in our Jira equivalent at the time. And we realized, like, more than like 60% of our time, we were fighting regressions in, and customer defects. And it really brought to conversation, like, prioritization. And if that is something that is slowing us down for further innovation, it totally made sense to take time to sort of beef up that area of the code and add the required quality checks before we moved on, right? And we did that, like you, just manually going and tagging things through and trying to estimate how much time and investment is it actually taking us. We also had like a staffing discussion based for the team, right? Because if 60% of your team is working on support, you either set your expectations of what you can deliver, or you staff up the team appropriately to, meet those expectations. So again, like we try to look at these kinds of things too with Uplevel. So not just time, but like, what are the types of things that your team is working on to give you a sense of what might be getting in the way.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because people will tend to work on the things that they like to work on, whether or not that's important to the business or not. Could
right.
could lead people astray a little bit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like we try Uplevel, obviously we use it at Uplevel ourselves, and we fall into the same patterns, right? Like we have our goals and we're trying to see, because developers want to know that their stuff matters and it's aligned to some business objectives, and we were trying to sort of map and see if we could get mappings of things that developers were working on to the overall business objectives. Uh, and then there's this some of that mapped, and then there was this long list of stuff that didn't. And you're like, well, this sounds important too, and it's fun to work on. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally hear you.
So how is it that Uplevel kind of tracks that? How is it that that information is fed in, and what is the output like?
Yeah, so in terms of time, what we do is, we have a feed of calendar messaging, the work item tracking systems and source code, and we take meta for everything. So we're not really reading your messages. We just know that you talk to this other person at this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to give you an example of, do your developers have time for deep work? Like, think hackathons, they're so excited because it's an interrupt-free time. And there's just this shared expectation that, I can get back to you when I'm done with my stuff, or I should think twice before interrupting another person because they're in their creative time. So what we'll do is we'll sort of take your calendar and map your Slack interruptions over it to give you a true sense of just how much time you had available for deep work. Now, whether you did deep work or took a jog or napped, or, we don't know that and we don't want to know that. But what we're really focused on is, did the conditions even exist in the first place, right? We can give you a sense of just what types of meetings you were in, social, Scrum, project related, how long, whether multitasking was happening, just another proxy for, whether the meetings were focused. So that's kind of from the time side. We do a lot of analytics with respect to that. And then just on the work side, Jira and Git, like they have a ton of information about what's happening, right? And a lot of teams have certain ways they tag stuff of tech debt or automation, or this is a bug or a feature, stories, those kinds of things. And we work with teams if they have some, custom ways to do that too. And then we know how much, developers have worked on specific types of items, what sort of things they've checked code in, like what repos. And so we kind of bring that together to give you a sense of the portfolio of work being done and where things are being stuck. Are you in, review stages too long, or, waiting on other teams for dependencies, all those types of things that sort of introduce lag in the system.
So is all this data kind of compared just against yourself, or do you have the ability to kind of see how you stand in the average of other tech groups? Because sometimes you might not know if this is normal or not normal when you're first seeing this data the first time,
Yeah, it's a great question. We do have the ability to compare it against other tech groups, all our customers. And what we do as part of this is also, first we kind of do a baseline with organizations, right? So we'll sort of go to a CTO, VP of engineering, and, based on the data that we have, give them a sense of how are their teams doing on deep work or meeting time or portfolio of work or Jira hygiene, or, things that they're interested in, and how does that compare to other customers that we have. We've been doing something really interesting too, with respect to thinking uniquely about sort of the COVID situation and how work has changed, right? Because things that would be normal before or are not so much anymore. Are there more Slack interruptions now because people can't kind of go and tap you on the shoulder? Are there more meetings now? Is there Zoom fatigue? Do people feel like isolated, right? Because we talk to a lot of frontline managers who are our primary users, and that's top of mind for everybody. So we actually rolled out and prototyped some specific work from home challenges to give people a sense of how teams are doing on that.
So just to give me some insight, since COVID, our team has kind of been dispersed, and I've been working remotely and on quarantine for a couple months now. And has the data showed that people are working more or less or harder? Do they have more time for deep work than they had before? Do they have less? What are some of the things that you
Yeah.
guys are seeing?
Yeah, we're seeing, obviously, again, it depends. Every team and every company is different. But, we're seeing some really interesting trends. So we think a lot about this feeling of people that they're always on. Because if you think about it, the lines between work and home have blurred, right? Like there isn't that kind of separation where people either had commute or transition time. So we heard that a lot. And what we did was, got some sense about just activity and whether people were more always on compared to before. And we did see a lot of teams and people are being more on. Just if you think about, and that could be because, schedules are different now and they're chunked in different ways, that they're working at odd times of the day. It could be because, now that people can't get physically interrupted, like it shows in the digital footprint, my Slack interruptions. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we've heard also from some people, they feel a heightened pressure to be responsive. Just because, if I'm not at the office, I'm at home and I'm not responsive, people might think I'm, not working, right? So we are seeing sort of a heightened sense of being always on. Small fun fact, we are seeing multitasking in meetings increase a lot. I think it's just easier to do. Yeah. Time for deep work, we've actually seen mixed. We've seen variations, but in general, we've seen time for deep work decrease as we've seen sort of Slack interruptions increase. And I think the hypothesis there is just that's how people know how to sort of get work done and collaborate with others now. And we've seen this, in Uplevel ourselves, where we saw our own interruptions go higher and our own responsiveness go higher. And we actually took our data to have a conversation and be like, okay, and we started introducing sort of, no response required 90-minute blocks, right? Where people can just take the freedom to do what they need to get done and not feel like they have to be on all the time. We're going to think about meeting days, and so after that, sort of, it's been a transition where everyone's been more on, but we're now realizing that that's not sustainable, right? And we're trying to find our new normal, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say I've seen that too. I know with my team, I've had some people that were able to adjust to this, just seamlessly. Partly because, they've worked from home before, they kind of knew how to do it. And there was other people that I had to tell them, go take breaks, go for a walk. Don't always just be at your computer all the time. You're going to burn out. You're going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, Zoom fatigue is real. Like we felt it. We've been doing a few things ourselves, like walking one-on-ones has become really popular for us. Mm-hmm. Where we were like, okay, we don't need to be sort of at the screen and on video. Let's because part of this, and we've seen this too, is like people react really differently. We've had a spectrum where, some of our developers were really happy. They get to be on their couch and code all day and, no commutes. And this was a good arrangement for them. And we've had the other end of the spectrum too, who thrived in, sort of the in-person interactions, and it was a lot harder, right? And so first step is just sort of acknowledging that there is that spectrum and sort of finding ways to deal with it. And so we've implemented a few things, like walking one-on-ones is popular. The no Slack is good. We also do sort of Friday lunch and games, just to kind of keep that social pulse and take a break from work in some ways to just connect better. We've had 2 people on board in the last month, new employees. So that's been an interesting experience in itself.
Yeah, we had a new project manager get hired, and he came into the office one day, and the very next day we locked down. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's something. But, by and large, I think in the big picture, we're realizing we can do a lot of things remote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I know, like, when my wife also works in tech at a much larger company than mine, but her company, she said that they, when they first went fully remote, they actually saw an uptick in their story points getting completed across all tech teams. They saw like a 30% upcrease the first, I think it was like the first 4 weeks, and then it slowly trickled back down, and it's kind of leveled out now to where it was before. But at the beginning, they saw this huge uptick because people felt like they had to be, contributing or showing that they're contributing in order to be productive.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of throughput, like we have seen that too. Like we initially saw sort of, a lot of PRs getting completed through in some things, but in some things what we saw was just the median time they take for completion kind of rose a bit. Right. And it came down to just having, again, those shared expectations and not being able to go and say, hey, can you review this code for me? And kind of finding your way around what's working. It's true. Like people feel they need to contribute more. And we do see people burning out. Like the exec team at Uplevel was constantly thinking about what can we do, and I think as a leader and manager in these times, I think that's one of the biggest things you can do is just keep a real pulse on the team and figure out how you can support them best.
Yeah, and I've seen companies do some really cool things during this lockdown. I've seen some companies have like my wife's company, they give everybody a Friday off, just a random. On Wednesday, they sent out a message and said the entire company's off on Friday. You guys have been doing such a great job. Do not sign in to email. Do not get on Slack. Do not get in any Zoom meetings. Just you're done. On Friday, take the day off. Enjoy it with your family. And I've seen.
We have.
As I say, one thing that our company did. Our CEO got we did a all company Zoom meeting because we typically have monthly all company meetings anyway. So we did an all company Zoom meeting, and he brought in a stand-up comedian to kind of, which was really kind of awkward at first, but it ended up being really cool. That was able to do Zoom, like a 10-minute comedy bit on Zoom for the whole company. And it's like, oh, that's cool. And then and that was right after lunch. And then, the rest of the day, have the rest of the day off, take it off.
Yeah.
So there's been some cool things that companies have done.
That's a really good idea. Actually, the comedian, our company has off tomorrow. So we did the same thing. We're like, let's just take 2 long weekends in a row. We've done a lot. We actually have done a lot. We've been encouraging people to just make their home comfortable, like expense what they need to and get their, sort of home office situation in a good shape. Like we actually had, I thought this was really useful, like the equipment from the office, like the monitors and keyboards. We just delivered it to every person, along with the plants in the office because they needed some love. So we all adopted plants.
That's nice.
And one of the things that also worked really well was one of our team members, she organized these Jeopardy games, which were really based on us, right? So you had to guess certain like traits that, it'd be like, who is this person from the team member? Like an example, this person's favorite drink is, I don't know, Moscow Mule, something like that. And so you could just guess and get to know each other better. This works well, especially because we have 2 new hires. And so very, you might call cheesy, but fun. And we all got to know a little bit more about each other, even though we knew each other for a couple of years. Yeah,
that's very cool. I think the plants idea is a really good idea. I didn't even think about that, but that's a great idea.
We actually had, there's a website that delivers plants too. So just as a gift to get some greenness in, everybody's homes, like we had a plant delivered along with other care package items like snacks and office supplies and just, a random like thank you and this time is hard and, things that we're used to in the office, right? Like pens and Post-its and just a lot of munching. Like, so we got those delivered to all our people as well.
Cool. So you're up in Seattle, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I think the whole virus thing kind of hit your area probably first when it comes to the United States. What was that like? Because I think where I'm at near Charlotte, North Carolina, we have plenty of time, I guess, to kind of think about it and realize this is happening. But you guys didn't have that advantage. How was it like from your end when that just first happened?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it was a very I want to say like every day is changing type of situation. And we, being sort of at the epicenter of it all, we didn't know what the right thing to do was. And I think for me personally and my family, we had to make those decisions ourselves. Like, do we still send the kids to school? It was almost like you can see the writing on the wall, but the state hadn't shut down yet. And so you were left to make the decision about, should our employees still go to work, or should we just start work from home early? Should my kids go to school, or should we keep them home? And so that period was quite anxiety inducing. I'll admit that I was in the deep dark holes of the internet and I was on top of the numbers and counties and, right from the first case of community transmission to it blowing up. And so we made some decisions early on, we kept our kids home for about a week before schools actually shut down. At Uplevel, we started work from home earlier too. And I think at that time it was more stressful because, you felt like you're bearing the burden of responsibility of making these decisions. And, again, for me personally, when things did shut down and, there was sort of a more widespread acknowledgement of the situation, it kind of eased my nerves in some ways. And I know it sounds odd that, the state shut down and, I'm less anxious, but really it was because I felt like, okay, we have now entered the tunnel, we'll probably come out of it. And before that, just seeing the experiences of, Europe and China, we knew that tunnel was coming, but we refused to enter it. And that's how it felt like. But I have to admit, we did not think it would be this long. We thought, a couple of weeks, a month, and sort of just dealing with the uncertainty. There were questions every day of how we might do this. And again, at Uplevel, we sort of made a decision that at least for the rest of this year, we will work from home. And once we made that decision, again, it's, you can move from sort of the mental mind state of if I'm going back, how will I go back? When will I go back? To, okay, I know I'm going to be home for an extended period of time. And how do I make my life comfortable, right? Because I think as sort of leaders and people, the things that we can do, think about are just things that we can control. And so just trying to focus on what are things we can control and what would work for us.
Yeah, I'm definitely stealing that walking one-on-one. I mean, I started doing walking one-on-ones in person probably 6 or 8 months ago. And and mostly because I felt like people weren't opening up when they're in my office, so if we got outside and walked around the pond, it's a little bit easier to open up. But I think doing that over Zoom and stuff is so much better than just sitting in front of a screen. That's a great idea.
I would agree. Another thing we did with our friends, I wasn't, a typical person from suburbs, and we had this internal joke running where, the city people eat salads and walk, and the suburban people, eat pasta and sit on the couch kind of thing. And so, during this time with a few friends, we started, a step challenge and just some motivation to get out there and, get some fresh air and physical exercise and things like that. And that worked really well. So that's something we're thinking about too as a company-wide, just a fun little fitness challenge to get people motivated to get out and get some steps or get some move minutes.
Yeah, we did one through Fitbit a while back where we set up a company challenge there, and the winner got an extra day of PTO or something. The winning team, we got to pick teams of 4, and our security team, which we didn't really think about this at the beginning, but they walk around all day. It's kind of their job, not the cybersecurity, the actual physical security guys. So they crushed us.
Oh, that's funny.
I think they were each averaging 40,000 steps a day, so they crushed us.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God, that's insane. A new level of that's awesome. No chance there. I'm thinking more in the can we reach 5 digits? That's my challenge for the day.
So when it comes to analytics, I think that's really important. And I know for me when I was a new manager, measuring things was kind of the one way that I was able to figure out how the team was doing. Because everybody wants to, be nice to their boss. They want to tell their boss the good things. It's hard for them to tell them the bad things. But if you're looking at the numbers, it's a little bit more clear and a little bit easier to have those conversations because you have real data in front of you. What has been some of the things that you've seen that are real? Like, do you have any stories or examples of like really winners that people have seen out of this that have shined a light on something that was kind of hidden before?
Yeah, I think one of the ways, you're right. Like having data is just a really important thing for conversations. But one thing we encourage sort of managers and leaders in just using our data is, we get data from 4 sources and we don't have sort of, all the context that they do. So instead of sort of using it to, find answers, like use it to generate questions and have conversations, right? Because I think that's when you get the best results is because data can be interpreted many different ways, right? And so the best thing to do is have a conversation with it. So, as an example, like we had some managers take the data to the team because we had data around just how much out of work hours, slacking and activity was going on. And fun fact there, like the manager saw the data and realized that, the weeks I spend a lot of, or the days I spend a lot of out of hours slack, the team bars rise as well, right? And you don't realize it, but in hindsight, it makes sense. Like there's a lot of follow the sort of leader behavior going on, and the teams will feel like, oh, my manager's asking something and I need to respond. And so the manager, like for themselves, really took it upon their heart to be like, oh my God, I am the one causing this behavior in my team, right? And so similarly with multitasking, you'd have managers come in and say, I don't multitask, I have a phones down sort of policy. But when they see the data, they're like, actually, I do multitask more than I think I do. So we've had a lot of examples of just managers looking at data about their own behaviors and realizing some of their blind spots. And like another of my favorite ones, and I use this a lot in my charts too, is we have this just how much face time and by face time we mean like how much time in meetings and Slack you are getting with your individuals just outside of your regular one-on-ones, right? So typically by the nature of projects that a manager is involved in, they spend more time with some of their ICs than others. And again, that's been a source of blind spot, being like, oh yeah, I had my one-on-one and that's it. Like maybe I should send an intentional message to this other person I don't work naturally with a lot, or Slack them, or just have that connection, right? So it's been sort of useful as managers looking at their own data and figuring out how they might set better examples in the team. And then also, we've had a lot of success with using this in, team retrospective discussions, right? So as an example, like a manager took sort of their deep work time trend to the team and was like, here's how we're doing. And then it makes it really safe for everybody to chime in and feel like, and say, yeah, I feel the same way. Yes, I am involved in a lot of meetings, right? Where, as you said, maybe sometimes it doesn't feel as safe to bring those things up. And so we have this ability to just schedule team deeper sessions through our tool itself. And so what the managers and teams did was like, all right, let's try to be intentional about it. And they just scheduled, deeper sessions as a team. And what we have found is, and when that happens, we sort of partner with the teams through Slack. What we found is when you do this as a team, like almost hackathonish style, right? You eliminate sort of the two biggest sources of distractions. One is really yourself, right? And like I tend to distract myself a lot. But if I know that this is, the next 2 hours or the upcoming 10 to noon block is time that I have reserved for my work, and, there's almost this, what we found is there was a peer pressure to be effective and creative and get work done because, it was time for everybody to do that. And the second biggest source of distraction is just your team. And, everyone knowing that I should not be pinging you at this time was tough, but it worked because you do end up realizing, yeah, that question wasn't as urgent. Like I could have waited another 2 hours before I had to ask it.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing. Like with my team, I know you mentioned about the bosses, people following the leader. When I would send messages after hours, I would tell people, even in the message, I say, do not respond. This can wait till Monday, but they still do. They always do. so,
yes.
so I had to learn the discipline of just, on the weekends, if I want it, just save it in my drafts, and wait till Monday.
Yeah. We had a running joke with our boss too, our CEO, me and Jory, who's our VP of marketing. We kind of, pointed out the lines for him out of work and ours, and just how ours were exactly trailing his. And we're like, we kind of know what's happening here. And he's like, I get it. I need to be better. So yeah, data can really help make these conversations safe. Another sort of, just outside of time, another really cool thing that came out of this was a manager. We have like longer term trends of just what type of work people are working on. And they realized that on their team, again, not intentionally, but one of their individuals was just working on bugs for the last 3 months and hot fixes, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't realize that in a day-to-day. They're just really good at it. They're the ones who know how to do it. They're the ones who can get it done the quickest, right? And so your natural instinct is just, hey, can you kind of take care of this for me? But it was a good reminder and a good sort of just a nudge to say, okay, this is happening for the last 3 months. And maybe it's time to check in with that person and have a conversation of whether they're still enjoying this or are they going to get burnt out eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's been very insightful, and I found a lot about what you guys are doing. How can people find out more about Uplevel, and how can they connect with you if they have any questions or want to follow up?
Just visit our website, uplevelteam.com. You can, there's a page in there to contact us. You can see all sorts of things about what we do and, how to get a hold of us. We also have a blog with, just all these tips and things that we are trying ourselves. We kind of post them on there, especially from the work from home and that time. And what I love about it is just, we are a product for, engineering effectiveness and engagement, right? And we sort of try that on ourselves all the time. So it's just really fun. You've got to like walk the walk, right? So it's just been a really cool experience trying to build something for that.
Yeah, that is really cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. And don't forget that you can sign up for private internet access for only $3.33 a month. Check it out at geekleader.com/VPN.